The cold wind swept across the wide-open ranchland as the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky in streaks of gold and crimson. The dirt road leading to the barn was quiet, until a fragile silhouette appeared, clutching her thin coat tightly against her chest. She hesitated with each step, her stomach aching from days of hunger, her shoes worn down to threads. The girl, no older than 20, whispered a prayer before knocking gently on the barn door. "Can I clean your barn for a plate of food?" she asked, her voice trembling yet filled with determination. Inside, the rancher turned, his rugged face hard from years of toil, and when his eyes met hers, he froze as though he had seen a ghost. The rancher, a man named Samuel, had spent years alone on his land, caring for cattle and repairing fences with no one to share his burdens. Life had carved lines into his face, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of this young woman. She reminded him of someone he had lost long ago, someone whose memory still haunted him. For a moment, he could not speak, his hands trembling as he gripped the wooden beam of the barn. The woman lowered her gaze, ashamed, thinking he was about to turn her away like so many others had before. But Samuel's silence was not rejection, it was recognition, though he could not yet believe it. Her name was Lily, and she had been walking from town to town in search of work, but the world had not been kind. Doors had shut in her face, whispers followed her, and hunger was now her constant companion. Yet, despite her weary frame, her eyes held a quiet fire, a will to survive. She spoke again, her words quivering with both desperation and dignity. "I don't want charity, sir. I'll work as hard as you need. Just a meal." Samuel felt his throat tighten, his heart aching with something he could not name. She was not just another wanderer, there was something deeper that drew him in. For days Samuel had kept his ranch afloat through sheer grit, though drought and debt threatened to crush him. He didn't trust easily, but something inside him told him not to turn this girl away. He handed her a piece of bread and a glass of milk, watching as she devoured it, tears streaming down her face as though the food carried more than sustenance, it carried hope. The barn, with its hay-strewn floor and scent of livestock, suddenly felt alive in her presence. Lily looked up between bites, whispering, "Thank you, sir, I'll earn this." And Samuel, still shaken, nodded slowly, though the storm within him only grew stronger. That night, after she had finished sweeping the barn, Samuel sat on the porch, his eyes on the fading stars. His mind wandered back to years ago, to a woman he had loved who left him without explanation, taking their unborn child with her. He had never forgiven her, nor himself, for not stopping her. But when he looked at Lily, the curve of her smile and the light in her eyes mirrored that woman so vividly, it was as if the past had walked back into his life. Could it be? He wondered, clutching the photograph he kept hidden in his drawer. His chest burned with a mix of pain and longing. The days turned into weeks, and Lily worked tirelessly, tending to the animals, scrubbing tools, and repairing broken fences. Samuel noticed her determination, how she never complained no matter how heavy the task. She had an unshakable dignity, even in rags, and slowly the ranch began to feel less empty. At night, he would catch her staring at the horizon, her eyes lost in memories she never spoke of. Curiosity gnawed at him, but he hesitated to ask. He feared the answer, feared the truth that hovered just beyond reach. He only knew one thing, her presence healed a wound he had carried for far too long. One evening, as they sat by the fire in silence, Samuel finally asked her where she came from. Lily's hands trembled as she clutched the cup of tea he had given her. "I don't know much about my family," she admitted softly. "I was raised by strangers who never wanted me. They told me my mother died giving birth, and my father, they said he never cared." Her voice broke, and Samuel felt his heart pound so hard he thought it might shatter. The story echoed too closely to the life he had lost. He swallowed hard, unable to form words, his mind spinning with possibilities he wasn't ready to face. That night Samuel searched through his old chest, pulling out the photograph once more. It was a faded picture of him and a woman with soft eyes, smiling under the summer sun. She had left him without warning, leaving only rumors in her wake. Could Lily be their child? The thought seemed impossible, yet undeniable. His hands shook as he compared the photograph with Lily's face in memory, the resemblance was haunting. For hours, he sat awake, torn between hope and fear. If she truly was his daughter, then fate had given him a second chance he never thought he would have. The following morning, Samuel decided he needed to know the truth. He invited Lily to sit with him on the porch, where the early light cast golden hues across the land. "Lily," he began gently, "do you know your mother's name?" She hesitated, biting her lip, before whispering a name that made Samuel's entire world tilt. It was the name of the woman he had once loved, the woman who vanished. His chest tightened, tears stinging his eyes as the truth solidified. This girl, this fragile, strong, beautiful young woman, was not a stranger at all. She was his blood, his daughter. Samuel's voice cracked as he whispered the truth to her. Lily's eyes widened, shock freezing her in place as she tried to process his words. She wanted to deny it, to push away the pain of abandonment, but his trembling hands and the photograph he placed before her left no room for doubt. Tears spilled down her cheeks as anger and sorrow clashed within her. "If you were my father, why wasn't I ever wanted?" she cried, her voice breaking into the night air. Samuel, broken, fell to his knees before her, confessing the years of regret, the lies he had been told, and the pain of her mother's departure. For hours, father and daughter sat together, both wounded by a past neither had chosen. Samuel begged for forgiveness, his voice raw with desperation. Lily listened, torn between bitterness and the aching longing for a family she had never known. She wanted to hate him, yet in his eyes she saw truth, remorse, and love. The wall she had built around her heart began to crack, though the scars of abandonment would not vanish overnight. She whispered softly, "I don't know if I can forgive you yet, but I don't want to walk away either." And Samuel, broken yet relieved, nodded with trembling hope. The following weeks became a new chapter in their lives. Samuel treated Lily not as a stranger working for food, but as the daughter he had longed for all his life. He taught her how to ride horses, how to mend fences with steady hands, how to read the land and listen to the wind. Lily, in turn, brought warmth back into the ranch, laughter echoing against the barn walls where silence once reigned. Their bond grew slowly, fragile yet real, like a seed pushing through dry earth in search of the sun. The pain of the past lingered, but love began to weave its healing threads. But challenges still loomed. The ranch was struggling, debts piling high, and Samuel feared losing everything just as he had found his daughter again. One evening, he confessed his worries to Lily, ashamed of his weakness. To his surprise, she placed a hand over his and smiled with quiet determination. "We'll fight this together," she said firmly. For the first time in years, Samuel felt the strength of hope surge within him. He was no longer alone in his battles. Lily's courage became his own, and together they began to rebuild not just the ranch, but the family they both had longed for. Word spread through the small town of the young woman who had appeared at Samuel's ranch. Some whispered doubts, others spoke with pity, but Samuel and Lily ignored them. They worked side by side, sweat and tears mingling with laughter as they turned hardship into resilience. Slowly, the ranch began to thrive again. Neighbors who once kept their distance now offered help, drawn by the undeniable bond between father and daughter. It was as though the land itself responded to their healing, blooming where it had once withered. In every repaired fence, in every calf born, in every sunrise, there was hope. One day, as they sat beneath the shade of an old oak tree, Samuel handed Lily a small locket he had kept for years. Inside was a picture of her mother, smiling, filled with the same warmth Lily carried in her eyes. Tears welled up as she held it close, feeling both grief and gratitude. "She loved you, Lily," Samuel whispered, "but life tore us apart. I failed to find you, but I swear I'll never fail you again." Lily leaned against him, her heart finally softening, realizing that while the past could not be changed, the future was theirs to build together. The seasons shifted, and the ranch became a place of life once more. Samuel watched proudly as Lily led the horses with grace, her laughter filling the air like music. She was no longer the starving girl who had knocked on his barn door, but a strong, radiant young woman who had found her place. The town began to see her not as an orphan, but as Samuel's daughter, rightful heir to his land and his heart. Together, they faced each challenge, their bond growing stronger with every trial. What began as desperation had become destiny, and both embraced it fully. Through the struggles, Samuel learned the true meaning of redemption. He had lost so much in life, but fate had given him a second chance through Lily. Every meal they shared, every chore done together, every word exchanged was a thread repairing the tapestry of his broken past. Lily, too, found healing in belonging, in knowing she was not abandoned but loved deeply. Those scars remained, they no longer defined her. Instead, she carried them with strength, proof of her resilience and her worth. As the years passed, Samuel's once quiet ranch became known for more than cattle. It became known for the story of a father and daughter reunited against all odds. Travelers often stopped by, drawn by the tale whispered in town. And when they asked Lily how it all began, she would smile softly and say, "With a hungry girl knocking on a barn door." Those simple words carried a truth deeper than most could imagine. For it wasn't just food she had found that day, it was family, forgiveness, and a home. And so, beneath the endless sky and the rolling hills, Samuel and Lily built a life together, one of love, resilience, and redemption. Their story became a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope can appear in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes, all it takes is a single act of kindness, a single plate of food, to change the course of two lives forever. In the end, the ranch was not just a place of work or survival, it was a place of healing, where the broken were made whole. Samuel, once hardened by loss, had discovered the power of love to soften even the deepest scars. Lily, once lost and hungry, had found more than food, she had found her father and her future. Together, they proved that no past was too dark to overcome, and no heart too wounded to love again. And as the sun rose each morning, painting the land in golden light, their bond shone brighter than the dawn.